Hey guys, what's up? It's JT here with another video. And in this video, I'm probably going to be going over something that a lot of smokers that when they first start smoking wonder what's sort of the best way to inhale their devil's lettuce. And for me, honestly, when I first started smoking, I would usually just go with friends, and my friends, and that's probably how most people start. Most people start off with a friend, and they get them started, and they just kind of keep going with that friend. But when you want to start smoking by yourself, you want to start chilling out, you want to start being able to get your own, and you start getting your own dealer, and you start doing everything on your own independently, you start to wonder with all this freedom, how are you going to start smoking weed? Are you going to keep doing it the way that, you were showed? Or are you going to start looking into different ways? So in this video, I kind of wanted to go over what we were going to, what generally are the best ways for a beginner to start smoking weed. And I kind of wanted to go over the three main things, which were convenience, duration, and the high. And the high part's kind of arguable because I have a lot of people, and a lot of people, I can't, when you guys start commenting down there, you guys are going to be saying nah, this gets you higher, nah, this gets you higher, and this, my experience, this gets you higher because this is this and this. So there's a lot of controversy, and there's a lot of debate on whether these certain ways I'm going to be going into are going to be better than the other ones as far as the high, because everyone's different, and everyone, the strains are different, everything's different, so there's so many different variables that there's no really right way. But I'm just going to be kind of going over what I experienced for me and what I've heard and what my friends have told me. So let's just jump right into this. So the first way that I started smoking personally with blunts, and pretty much if you guys don't know what that is, a blunt is a cigar wrapped in you skin out the tobacco within the cigar, and you throw in your weed, grinded or not grinded. You can just take it out, pick it up with your fingers, and you just roll it in there. So this is along with a joint, which I'm gonna go after this, is the first thing is you gotta know how to roll. That's another thing you gotta learn. And the price for cigars, if you're gonna go in to buy one, it's gonna be $1 for maybe 2 or 3 maybe if you're lucky, right? And so that gives you maybe 3 cigars to practice with, or 2 maybe to practice with, and then the last one to actually do it, and it can be kind of gut-wrenching at first to learn how to roll, especially if you only have 3 things to practice on, 3 little cigars to practice on. But to dive in the blunt, I gotta say, just because the skin of the tobacco on the outside of it, the thing is going to burn a lot slower. Now, if you're smoking weed to get away from tobacco, or you're smoking weed because you think of it as a higher or as a better alternative to cigarettes or tobacco, or you're just totally anti-tobacco altogether, then I have a bunch of friends that have told me that oh no, I don't do blunts because of the cigar wrapping. But let's be real here, boys. You're just smoking the skin of the tobacco. The tobacco, yeah, of course, but you're only smoking the skin of it. I remember there used to be this own little myth, and I'm not even sure if there's any merit to it, but I used to hear it all the time in Miami, is that when we were rolling a blunt, they had this thing called the cancer line, apparently. So when after you took out the tobacco, because that's obviously what you have to do, there's on the skin, there's supposed to be this little line, and they said it was if you didn't do it, it was it was taboo if you didn't do it. I never did it, but and my friends would always give me shit when I was rolling, take off the cancer line, I don't want fucking cancer, and just nah, dude, it's no different, you're still smoking the skin of the cigar. But apparently that's what it was. There was a little line, there's a little lining on the blunt or on the cigar, and on the Dutch or the Swish or whatever, right? And apparently if you just kind of cut that part off, giving you less space to roll with, right, apparently you get less cancer. So I don't know, I guess the thinking is if there's less lining, or if there's less skin on the tobacco, or there's less skin on the leaf, then maybe it's less tobacco. So I guess that makes sense, but they were talking about it as if you got more, but it was that much of a difference. But so that just goes to show, there's so many different little myths out there. Even with acid there's a fuck ton, but there's just one that I used to hear of, and maybe you guys have heard of that one too. But so duration, duration for blunts, it's hands down for things that you roll between joints and blunts are gonna last way longer, because cigars are meant to last for 45 minutes to an hour maybe, depending on how much you're puffing. So the outside of cigar wrapping, hands down, probably the longest way. And it's much more. And another thing too is, when you're smoking with a bunch of friends, it's just so much more cool. It's much more calm and cooler and just relaxed if you're just passing around something rather than passing around a bowl or a bong or something like that. It's just it's a little more convenient in that case. So, which brings me into my next topic, convenience. So this can be a little kind of hard, because if you're a minor and you're trying to smoke some, herb, it could be a little difficult. You're gonna have to figure out how you're gonna get it, because now you're underage, So you gotta maybe try to get a fake ID or something, or ask someone outside. You know, what we used to do, me and my friends back in Miami, what we used to do is we used to ask people outside all the time. And if that, we did that in the very beginning, but we had this one friend who looked like he was 18, and he had a beard. You know, when we were like in 8th, 9th grade, he had a full beard, and we just sent him in, and he just, you know, he'd buy them. They wouldn't even ID him. So, there's also places too that will just like, you know, I mean, we lived in Miami, and Miami has a bunch of places that they just don't give a shit. I mean, and if you live in any sort of, not necessarily like shady, but just any sort of town where just kind of like they have a very laid back attitude about all that stuff, you know, you can just literally just walk in, they probably won't even ID you. If the guy looks like he's just gonna give you some slack, he probably won't ID you. You know, any sort of like independent, co-owned, family-owned shops, they probably won't ID you. So, but it's still kind of an inconvenience to be having to do that. Also, the amount that you get for like $1 is like, you know, maybe like 2 to 3 to 1 for $1. So that's another thing. Price is another thing you have to keep in mind with blunts. But to move on to the next thing, joints. So joints are a little better, more convenient, because when you buy joints online and you buy them in, at a store, whatever, you know, if you're buying king size or you're buying the smaller ones, you get them in packs. So like for king size, they usually come in about 32 leaves for raw. And you know, that's it. So that's pretty good. I mean, for about I think it's around $3 to $4, maybe $5 depending on where you live. But generally, the rule of thumb, I think it's usually anywhere from like $2 to $3. Maybe, and you get 32 leaves out of that, so that's pretty good. And then you can even get smaller ones that I think are 1.5 inches, I think, or 1 1/4. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I forgot what the fucking thing is, but you can get one of those, and those come in 300s. So you get 300 fucking of those papers, and that's pretty good. So that's really convenient to only have to do it maybe once every month, maybe, if you're not a big smoker. If you're a weekend smoker, probably maybe even once every couple months. So that's pretty helpful. And then the good thing about that is it gives you plenty of sheets to learn how to roll. I mean, when I was learning how to do joints, it took me like a good 2 packs of king size, so 60 something papers it took me to do, and I finally got it, but I mean, it took me forever. So that's another thing to take into consideration is, you know, the rolling aspect for those two ways to smoke is going to be pretty difficult. And then, you know, this is something I figured out in Virginia, what a lot of kids here do, and it was never common in Miami, but they have this thing called jeebs, and maybe you have it where you guys are from, but over here in Virginia, what pretty much what it is, it's like a homemade gravity bong, but they call them jeebs, right? So, and this cannot be healthy. I mean, I haven't looked into this, but this shit, I mean, I'm gonna cover this as homemade bongs, okay? This whole thing I'm talking about is homemade bongs. So, the thinking is that, like, it's pretty much a gravity bong where you put a water bottle inside of a big, like, you know, 7-Eleven Slurpee cup thing, right? And you fill it up with some water, and you poke holes in the bottom of the water bottle, and you put a little ratchet or something like that on the top of the water bottle. You put your weed in there, you light it up, it fills up with smoke, you take it out of the water, and then you take a hit, right? The problem with that is, if you're not using a ratchet, and you're just kind of putting it in the side of the plastic, right, like some people do, you're smoking plastic. And that can't be healthy, boys. I mean, the whole idea of a jeeb just doesn't sound healthy at all. I mean, if anything, it sounds much more toxic than a blunt to me. I don't know. But I've had so many people come to me and say, oh, jeebs get you so fucking stoned, right? And that's what they say. And if you're really chasing a high, but you want to kind of take a risk with that, then I don't know. That's your prerogative. But I personally stay away from that shit. I think it's very low life. I don't like smoking out of homemade things. I'd rather not smoke at all than smoke out something like homemade, you know. It's just weird for me. But you know, the high aspect of that, you know, it depends. So, but the joint high is probably got to be like no different than a blunt high. It's got to be around the same. I've had people say for blunts that you get higher because of tobacco, but honestly, it just depends. It just depends on you. So, but I've had a lot of people say about the jeebs that it gets you fucking baked after a hit or two, you know, and that they say like, oh, if you get it fucking yellow and milky and shit, it's supposed to get you higher. I don't know if there's any merit to that argument. I personally haven't felt that, to be quite honest. Of the very finite amount of times I've done jeebs, as they say, I've almost never gotten any more high than I would have if I just, done, just a blunt or a joint, so there's that. Then the final thing, I guess the final thing I want to go over is bowls. And bowls, honestly, are probably hands down the most convenient, easily. I mean, I personally don't like the way to smoke bowls, but personally, I mean, that's just me. But I gotta say, as far as bowls go, it's the most convenient. You buy them once, you clean them out like once a month if you're even gonna clean them out, right? You throw your weed in a bowl, which is pretty much a pipe, right? You just, you light it up, you smoke it, and it honestly, the weed will last longer. You can put in a small amount of weed and just take a couple hits. That I will say though, from my experience, I do get higher off bowls, just because it's a lot easier to take that air hit, because when you let go of the cherry of the bowl, it's so much easier to get the smoke in. And the cool thing about that is you only need to get someone to buy you that at a smoke shop or a head shop once. You just say, oh, buy me a bowl for $5, and those go for like $5. So for what it would cost you to get maybe like 2 packs of papers and 10 blunts at best, right? You can have a smoke device that you can literally just smoke out of any time, and it's reusable. That's the great thing. You're not gonna run out of it. Cleaning's really easy. They're small as shit, so it's super convenient. And in my experience, I do get higher off of bowls, so that's another thing. Then the duration of that, it does last longer, to be quite honest. I mean, I will say that it feels longer just because you can load in little, like, really small, like 0.1 nugs of of weed. You can throw that in there. It's good for like a hit or two. You just do it until it's like gray ash, and you ash it out and move on to the next load mug, and that's it. So that's the great thing about that. It's not really good for groups though, so if you're smoking with a group of people, you don't really want to pass it on a bowl. I mean, you can, but it's just like stoner etiquette. You don't really want to pass it around, just because it's, for some reason, the double standard's like, it's not as disgusting to pass around a sweaty fucking joint or blunt, but when you're passing around glass and you can see the fucking drool slipping off the glass, it just it's disgusting. So then the last thing is bongs. And bongs, I don't really smoke bongs too often, so it's really hard for me to say. I love smoking outside. That's kind of my big thing. I like to just somewhere urban or somewhere natural. It doesn't matter to me, but as long as I'm outside, I feel a lot more better. But so I'm not a big bong person, so I'm not gonna comment too much on it. But pretty much on my experience for bongs is pretty much my same experience for either jeebs or bowls. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing for me. For me, it's like you pack in maybe like a 0.4, 0.5 nug. You throw it in there. It's good for about maybe 2-3 hits maybe. And along with bowls, I do feel a little more stoned off the bongs, just because the water is a little different, and just because you have the water in there, it just feels like I get a little higher off of bongs. So that's personally like my 2 cents on that. But as far as duration goes, I mean, you do have to load up a bong much more than you have to load up a bowl. And, so if you're gonna load up that, it just doesn't make sense to just do that if you're at your place. And then convenience-wise, this is the main reason why I don't smoke bongs. It's like, where the fuck, if you don't smoke inside, where the hell you're gonna bring a huge, one of those 16-inch bongs in a backpack and bring it outside? Like, people do it, I'm sure, but it doesn't seem very convenient. So that's another reason why I almost never smoke bongs, just because of that. I don't like being inside and smoking. It's just kind of a buzzkill. But, so that's pretty much it in this video. If you think I missed anything, please leave down a comment below. If you have any feedback for me, anything I should, as you know, guys, I'm new to YouTube. So if you guys have anything, my commentary style or anything like that, some feedback or some, just some pointers for me, be sure to throw it down in the comments. Let's be, let's be constructive critics here. But, yeah, I appreciate it, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.